Good evening, and welcome to our third night of full residency readings at the W's, Mississippi University for Women's Low Residency MFA program. Just for you guys who are here, it's Tuesday night. That means you've had 4 full days, and you have 4 more whole days. So we are right at the halfway point of our residency. So yeah, keep your energy going for a few more days. We have another great slate of 4 readers for this evening for you, starting with Katerina Canyon, Alexis Jemal. Our faculty reader, again because I called on him to do it twice, is TK Lee, who's also directing 2 theses, and that's one reason why I prevailed upon him. And our thesis reader for this evening is Jennifer Armstrong, who successfully defended this afternoon. Once again, I'll ask you to introduce yourself as you get up to read.
Hello, I'm Katerina Canyon. I've been here about a year and I am a poet. The first poem I'm going to recite is in response to today's workshop with Lamar. He mentioned the red wheelbarrow, and it reminded me of a poem I wrote about 25 years ago, 10 words. And I was trying to imitate E.E. Cummings. I know he has issues, but he writes a good poem. And it's called O. O, as hollow as the sound, an infinite wall protecting emptiness. So that's my short poem. This first poem is the first poem in my book, Surviving Home. It's called Involuntary Endurance. My story is not one revealed with chapter and verse. It is expressed in blood and bone. It is fingernails thrust into back muscles. It is razor blades pressed against flesh. It is told by how the shark swims through the ocean below a school of tuna, and it is not the shark's story. It is the school of tuna searching along the vast, dark, but sunlight-speckled ocean, looking while knowing they have everywhere and nowhere in the world to flee. It is the brown bear pulling honey from the honeycomb in order to teach her cubs to survive on their own. It is not the mother bear's story. It belongs to the cubs who wander the forest without her after she sacrificed her life to a boar grizzly to protect them. It is told through hot cylinders of pain that sear experience into the skin. It is told in front of the sharp bayonet that sprays blood-red existence against the multicolored palette of the universe. It may sit silent and still on these black and white pages, but it exists in every tremble of my leathered hand, and it is smeared into every tear-stained scream that flows through my quavering pen. The next one is called Compliance. All I gotta do is be black and survive. I know you want me to be quiet, just to go along, not to pay attention to things going on in this world. I know you don't want me to get angry, to argue, to protest. I know you say, I don't have to do nothing but stay black and die. Nah, all I gotta do is be black and survive. Survive abuse, survive drug epidemics, COVID pandemics, survive gun violence, survive loss, depression, discrimination, suicide attempts, survive police brutality, survive racism, survive systemic racism, and just flat out racism. survived doctors who would rather kill me than treat me, survived prison, survived misogyny, survived racism. I said racism before, didn't I? Because it comes back to racism. Racism in the schools, racism on TV, racism at work, racism baked into the bread. My blood smolders, and I try to keep the world from barbecuing me solid from the inside. Be Black and survive. That's all I gotta do. Thank you. This is my last one. It's called 1/5 Black. People think my grandson is white. I get how they could believe that with his white skin, his blonde hair, his blue eyes. I am a person of numbers. I would never claim to be a math whiz. I struggled through every math class I was in, but I know numbers. Like how 59% of Black women have attended college, but only 24% have a bachelor's degree or higher. Like how the Black maternal mortality rate is twice that of white women. Or how 27% of people killed by the police in this country are Black, but we only make up 13% of the population. I know numbers like that. So when people think of my grandson as white, I think I am 15% white, and my daughter is 40% Black, which makes my grandson 1/5 Black. I had to switch to fractions because of Plessy. He was 1/8 Black and could not ride the train with 100% white people. It's the one drop rule. I can look at antebellum conditions, which make a person white if they are less than 25% Black. I guess looking at numbers and inductive reasoning and legal arguments, that would make my grandson white, I think. But here's the thing. He has my face, the face that was also my mother's face and my grandmother's face and my great-grandmother's face. This face has seen a lot of racism. This face survived polio in the South, picked cotton, had a teaching certificate labeled certified for Black students only, could not eat in white restaurants, fought for integration, faced racial profiling, was called a nigger in the 4th grade, in junior high, in high school, and college. This face has been followed by the police just 2 days ago, handcuffed by the police, and beaten by the police. This face was born in Nigeria, came over on slave ships, and marched the Trail of Tears. This is something that cannot be erased by eye color or white skin. Black rests in his bones. And I hope he remembers that when he dances to the Nigerian music my daughter plays for him, when he eats his gumbo and biscuits, when he catches his first catfish in Louisiana. I hope he remembers when he sees his people struggling every day for equality, and I hope he stands up and says, "You are my brother and I stand with you." I hope he stands strong. I hope he remembers that he carries the face of his mother, his grandmother, his great-grandmother. I hope he remembers he holds Black in his blood, and I hope it brings him pride. Thank you.
I'm Alexis Jemal, and I hope to graduate in December. I have to thank Mary Miller for encouraging me to write this story in her creative nonfiction course, and then again for encouraging me to submit it. As Dr. Dunkelberg mentioned yesterday, this story received an honorable mention for the 2025 AWP Award Series. I'm hoping that with some further revision, mainly incorporating the great feedback that I've been receiving from my workshop group, that it'll eventually find its way to publication. So I'm going to read a few more pages, starting from where I left off on Saturday. I won't reach the end, so you'll have to live with the unknown until it's published. After Picasso had been home for a few months, I thought I heard him cough. I needed to get him to the veterinarian like a responsible pet parent. I used the phone book to locate a vet that accepted turtles as patients in the neighboring town. I had enough cash to take a taxi to the vet's office, but had no money for the return trip or the appointment. The vet took pity on me. He examined Picasso, said he was a healthy male turtle. Picasso peed on him. The vet paid for our transportation home. One day, after school in 8th grade, I found Picasso on top of his tank. He saw me approach, jumped, and landed in a pile of my dirty laundry. That's when I learned he was not only fast and could swim, but he could also scale glass walls. Picasso has been with me through my ups and downs, awkward moments, rocky relationships, regrets, growing pains, difficult conversations, and he helped me pick a spouse. In 2007, I was in my last year of law school, and Ben was a super senior in college. After only a few months of dating, Picasso, age about 13, and I, age 26, moved into Ben's family home. I remember when he first took me to his parents' house on Staten Island. I was still in shock that I was dating a white boy, 3 years and 3 months younger than me. I hoped he was rich. I kept that dream alive even as we drove to his house in his hoopty, an old beat-up Toyota Camry. We drove through a wealthy neighborhood that had a beautiful view of the Manhattan skyline. Many of the houses did not have driveways, but streets that led to the sprawling estates tucked away behind a looming natural fence. He started to slow down. This is it. My neurons screamed for my heart to beat faster. We hit the jackpot. He rolled to a stop at the corner, turned right, left, and then right into the hood on Jersey Avenue, known as a dangerous area, as evident by the New York Police Department watchtower with prison-grade spotlight and the nice view inside residence apartments. Ben pulled into the driveway of his two-family home. His family, namely his parents, Ann and Byron, and his younger brother, George, lived on the 2nd and 3rd floors. Ann and Byron rented the 1st floor unit to their longtime tenant. Around March of that year, I spent several weeks in a row at Ben's home, sleeping in Ben's childhood bedroom, probably on the same sticky bed sheets he had since high school. Ben's parents enclosed part of the 2nd floor with a door and converted it into an apartment for us. I don't recall moving my belongings into our apartment, but I do remember Byron, Ben's dad, asked me, "What's in the box?" "My turtle, Picasso." "Really?" he said with boyhood enthusiasm and wonder. I felt warmed, like how I always imagined it would feel to be welcomed into the kooky Addams family. Byron, a handy artist, built a custom-made stand for Picasso's tank. Picasso and I adapted well to Staten Island life. Ben and I often traveled to national and international fencing competitions. During these times, I asked Ann to turtle sit. One night, when she and Byron were relaxing in their space on the 3rd floor, they heard a strange scratching and knocking coming from downstairs. Ann is the brave one of the two, so she went to investigate. She found Picasso knocking his shell against the bottom stairs. He had traveled from our apartment, past the bathroom, past George's bedroom and Ben's childhood bedroom, through the kitchen and to the stairs going up to the 3rd floor. "Picasso, what are you doing here?" Without waiting for his response, "Come on, let's get you home," Ann said. As she walked back to our apartment, Picasso followed. We all wondered how he, with an 8-inch shell on his back, had escaped his tank. Picasso was an escape artist who never revealed his secrets. In 2016, we renovated my childhood home and moved in with my mother, Brenda, who lived alone. Now we were a family of 6. Ben, Brendan, our daughter, age 3, Brenda, Picasso, and Tigger, the cat that Ben adopted for me in 2006 from his ex-girlfriend. Since we had a large backyard at my childhood home, I begged Ben to build a pond for Picasso. After 6 years of consistent nagging, in the summer of 2022, I got my dream pond. Imagine an irregular roundish enclosure made from natural stone with a small plastic container or bathtub placed in the center, surrounded by dirt, plants, and creeping rose and honeysuckle vines growing up the pergola that we built the previous summer. Nestled between the plants that surrounded the tub, I created a fairy garden, complete with solar light fairy houses, little doors, and resident fairies. Now that I had a pond, I needed to fill it with fish and frogs and snails. What's a pond without fish and frogs and snails? I was a frequent shopper on Craigslist for secondhand everything. In my next life, I plan to own and live in an old house that is also a treasure shop called Fat Booty, spending my time treasure hunting at estate, yard, and garage sales. As I was saying, I went on Craigslist to find some secondhand fish for my pond. I found a posting on Craigslist by the Pond Guy. I took Ben and Brendan with me to the Pond Guy's house. In case the situation went wrong, we could all be murdered together. I can measure Ben's skepticism by how far up his eyebrows arch on his forehead. They were near his hairline. This Pond Guy's backyard had several above-ground ponds and tanks packed with koi and other types of ugly fish. That's when I realized I hate fish, unless they're on my dinner plate. I hate the way they breathe. I hate their stringy turds. I hate the way their lips are plumper than mine. I didn't want fish. By any chance, do you have turtles? I asked the weirdo. He showed us to the pond in the back, reached his net in the murky pond water, and fished out the perfect turtle. It was a yellow-bellied slider, a little smaller than Picasso. We, Ben, barely had enough cash to purchase my new turtle, a few tadpoles, and a snail. We named her Sunflower. As we drove home, questions twirled and danced across my mind. Ben plucked one question from my stream of consciousness. Picasso has been alone for 28 years. Do you think he'll get along with another turtle? He's probably been lonely all this time, and what's a friend? I said in my convincing no one tone. I Googled the question. The internet fired back nonsense about turtles being loners and that they should not be with another turtle, especially turtles that have lived alone for a long time. However, for the idiots out there who will try it, follow these rules. Make sure the turtles are about the same size. Larger turtles can kill smaller turtles. Make sure there's enough space in the tank with about 10 gallons of water per inch of shell. Be ready to recognize signs of turtle aggression. Do not put adult males together. Brendan, does Sunflower have long or short nails? I asked. Short nails. Woo, that was close, I said, relieved, then added, male sliders have long nails, so I think Sunflower is female. Before Ben could steal another question from my mind, I snatched it back and said, I'm looking up now. Can red-eared and yellow-belly sliders mate? I stated the question aloud as I typed. Yes. Brief silence. But maybe Picasso is too old to mate, I said. Maybe he has erectile dysfunction. Typing again, I asked Google, when do male turtles stop mating? Not even Google could help us now. We drove the rest of the way home in silence, but my thoughts were loudly wondering if I was about to witness a turtle massacre or turtle sex. When we arrived home, the three of us walked solemnly to the pond where Picasso was living his best life yet. Were we about to ruin it for him by introducing him to Sunflower, or maybe he was about to learn what life's been missing? We carefully placed her in the pond and watched. Picasso showed immediate interest in the intruder, but then shied away. I put some food in the pond. Sunflower mushed Picasso out the way and gobbled up all the food. She was my kind of girl. Later in early October, the air had a subtle chill. I planned to bring the turtles indoors for the winter within a week. However, Picasso's 50-gallon tank was too small for both turtles. I needed at least a 160-gallon tank. I revisited Craigslist and found a 225-gallon tank for an unbelievable price. 2 days before I planned to bring the turtles into the house, I came home around 7 p.m. to find the pond with no turtles. It was dark. I used my phone's flashlight to make sure I wasn't overlooking them. They were not in the pond and nowhere in sight. I was too confused to panic. I went inside. Ben, the turtles are missing. Can you help me look for them? Ben and I searched but found no turtles. I had 3 hypotheses. 1, predator, 2, escaped, or 3, stolen. By process of elimination, I landed on number 3. We saw no evidence of predators, in the area large enough to carry away 2 sizable turtles. How could both have escaped? There was no rope, nothing was disturbed, there were no turtle footprints or fairy witnesses. With only one explanation left, I called the police. I live in an affluent, predominantly white town with a low crime rate, except for the occasional creepy letters sent to new homeowners. Check out The Watcher on Netflix. I live down the street and around the corner from that house. Since the police don't do much around the neighborhood, they came to my home in record time. They filled out their police report and even asked for descriptions of the turtles, between chuckles. 2 days later, I looked out the window and saw Picasso marching back toward the pond from across our yard. I couldn't believe it. The prodigal son had returned. However, Sunflower never did. My friends and family have created several conspiracy theories. We believe that Picasso tired of Sunflower hogging all the food. He promised her a nice vacation. They scaled the wall. Picasso took her to the sewer and pushed her in. Or maybe Sunflower got angry and left. And then Picasso went after her and found her in trouble but couldn't save her. The next summer, I put Picasso in his pond alone. Although we couldn't figure out how the turtles escaped, we made some renovations to the pond, hoping that would solve the problem. A week later, Picasso absconded again. How did he remember how to escape from a year ago? I prayed for his safe return. I called out to him with my turtle spirit. 3 days later, when I was on a Zoom call in my basement office, I heard a strange scratching and knocking at the back door. I opened the door, and there was Picasso. That fall, someone offered us a red-eared slider turtle that they were going to abandon. We reluctantly accepted the unexpected gift and placed both turtles in the 225-gallon tank. I watched them closely. I thought the new turtle, named Rufio, was too small to be in the same enclosure as Picasso. Go check on the turtles, my gut told me at 2 a.m. I listened. The turtles were fine. At 5 a.m., I started my workday in my office, which was 1 room away from the turtle tank. At 6:30 a.m., I was there just in time to witness Picasso bite Rufio's face. I screamed. I grabbed the nearest object, a toy truck, and used it to push them apart. I grabbed Rufio and examined his wound. He had a little cut under his left eye. I put peroxide on it. That night, Ben, constructed a dividing wall for their tank so the two could have their own sides. Picasso was on the left. One random morning, they magically switched sides. The divider was in place. To this day, we have not solved that mystery. The episode of turtle violence meant that the turtle pond was not big enough for both turtles. When we finally cleaned the pond in the summer of 2024, we saw about 100 baby goldfish, new arrivals that would soon be goners. I put the turtles on a 2-week rotation. For 2 weeks in July, Rufio was in the pond. Then I switched them so Picasso was in the pond. I took a picture of Picasso camouflaged by the many diverse plants. On July 31st, while Picasso basked in the sun on a large rock, I told him it was time for him to go inside so Rufio could have his turn to enjoy the pond. I should have taken his picture. The next afternoon, Picasso was gone. How has this turtle outsmarted us for 3 years in a row? This time, he did not return. The worst part about this situation is that I lost my personal record of having the same turtle for 30 years. How many people in the world can claim that statistic? I lost my title as a competent turtle mom, which probably makes me a less interesting person. Thank you.
All right, I'm back. I am still TK Lee, and I thought I would be a bit vulnerable with you this evening and share a fresh, raw poem from a longer form narrative piece from my 3rd book, which I guess will be entitled Scrap. But the long-form narrative is entitled June in Ireland. It's sort of my travel poems. And this is section 3 of that, which is entitled The Briar and the Berry. Then it was Wednesday. We were gone to sight and see. We made a stop a near mile out from Ballinspittle, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it was Baltinglassend or Ballinslowend or Balbriggan, but it's someplace where the same name is spelled 2 different ways or more, with syllables split by whatever letters are left, and then thrown to the children, whose small and cursive hands they hope will assemble them into lore. Oh, June, jealousy isn't any old shade of green, it's emerald. that I will live and die unable to describe the beauty here possessed, that I will live and die fully aware that I'm never going to be able to, that I have been left here wanting, left standing for the first time with nothing to say and looking dumb. For example, being moved to the point of coming undone by the fact that what looks like the word teach in Gaelic is the word for home. Amanda and I had stopped, gotten out of the car to stand in a pasture off an accidental road, a mile or so outside another long ago early worded village. Before us, only the soft low of kind cattle and a slow spinning jinny around a landed circle of has-been stones. The cattle moved with little interest in us, having grown tired of being asked if they were there to guard these rocks, tired of having to answer, who guards rocks? Could be they guard us instead, especially rocks too old, these first riddles, too big to even be rocks, immovable except by that derelict kind of miracle hangnailed underfoot of man making belief for the first time that they must move, and thus they moved. These were those very rocks, and it made me cry, June, because it felt wrong. It felt wrong that Amanda and I were in sight of such certain fact, that the rocks we stood there looking at kept looking back. The rocks we stood there looking at were not native now, no, and worse, had been worn round what stood in the way to shape a home, a door, a bed. A wild quickening, a pulse from the stony rock sprung up, June, as we passed by the cattle guard again, clung to my neck with motive, slung me down hard. I couldn't keep my footing. Though my hands were clear, at the ready, I wasn't able to catch me. I found no purchase to steady me, no. The stone circle was all that broke my fall. A gatekeeper rock under me. I went back to the car, my head blue with ache. I went back to the car on monk feet, my head a perfect swell, closing out the very idea of time, the very means of history, and stopping only right before there was a word for forgiving. I stood beside a locked car and waited while Amanda hurried. It was nearly 4. We had to return the car. We had to get to the airport. But I eased deeper into the passenger seat and I cried more, June, and for reasons. Because I forgot the name of the road we were on, or because we weren't but a mile or so outside the name of a village I still could not pronounce. It felt fraudulent in my mouth. Or because I realized that in a very real and upsetting way, I was now missing all but. I mean, not knowing where you are is the same thing as not being anywhere at all. Is that a stupid thing to say? Perhaps I should have said, I am still too much of my mother's nature, a fact I used to celebrate. Perhaps I've been missing for years. As it is, I'm only good for the day, June. And now age has left me in the middle, out of breath, on the run, and in full pursuit. We busy in our fictions, give me liberty or give me death. So we deserve what's coming, I guess, because nature will not hesitate. Or perhaps I should have said that there weren't any available rooms at the inn, June, and that what bread I had has turned back to stone. That the accident of a civilized man is a life resisting a house that just wants to be a home. Perhaps there's no point now in getting a room. I realize I'm all copycat and dog-eared, June, but I'm fine with disappearing because I've already disappeared. Thank you.
Oh, stop, you're making me blush. All right, so my name is Jennifer Armstrong. I mostly go by Jenny. And as Kendall did state, I successfully defended my thesis. So my thesis was a collection of short stories, and I'm going to read 3 parts of one of them. The short story is Flare Right, and it's based in my fantasy world. It is high fantasy. And so, I don't know if I was supposed to say anything else yet, but we'll get there. I'm going to go ahead and start. We were moving from the plains to the mountains, passing through the land between the forest and the desert. The sun had just begun its descent, casting a golden hue over the landscape. I walked in the back of the group, enjoying the warmth. My role was simple: use my flames when needed. I was a flarewright, not a fighter. My comrades, Stout and Mary, shared jokes and stories as we moved along the well-worn path. Their legates, including hawks, foxes, badgers, trotted or flew alongside them, each creature a reflection of its master's spirit. My own, Kevzik, perched on my shoulder, his whiskers twitching with curiosity as he took in the changing scenery. "Tell us again, Siswin," called Brendick, his beard adorned with bones and baubles that clinked as he walked. His legate, a grizzled badger, padded by his side, eyes scanning the horizon. "How'd you make that firestorm last spring?" I smiled, though it felt more like barren teeth. "It wasn't much," I said, my voice carrying over the distance. "Just a little trick with the winds and flames, enough to keep the wolves at bay." Garrett, the youngest of our group, laughed. His sleek fox with bright eyes darted playfully around his feet. "Not much," she says. "Those wolves turned tail and ran like pups." We all laughed, the sound echoing through the still air. The camaraderie was infectious, a shield against the harshness of the road. We felt invincible, a small band of dwarves moving with purpose and joy. But joy is a fleeting thing. Without warning, shadows fell across us. From the forest to the south they came, moving with a predator's grace, the bitbane. Their eyes gleamed with malice, and their snarls filled the air with a primal threat. They hated dwarves as much as we hated them. Somehow we had wandered into their hunting grounds. Their legates should have been at their sides, animals with hungry eyes or birds with talons like curved blades, but there were none. The bitbane disease had stripped them of that bond, leaving them hollow and tethered and nothing more than beasts driven by bloodlust. "Form up," shouted Brendick, his voice steady despite the sudden chaos. "Siswin, get behind us." I stumbled, my heart pounding. I tried to summon my flames, but panic choked the magic in my veins. They moved fast, the bitbane, their long tails and manes flowing as they attacked. Brendick swung his axe, the blade gleaming in the dying light. Garrett fought with a desperation that belied his youth, his fox snarling and snapping, but it was not enough. "Run, Siswin," Brendick shouted. "Run and don't look back." I wanted to help, to fight alongside them, but I was no warrior. I turned and ran. The sounds of battle chased me. I heard Garrett scream, a sound that would haunt me forever. The ground was uneven, roots and stones threatening to trip me at every step. A bitbane leapt in front of me, its silver eyes locking onto mine. I tried to summon the fire again, but only a weak spark flickered at my fingertips. The creature snarled, a sound filled with hatred and hunger. It lunged, and I fell, the world spinning around me. The last thing I saw was Brendick, his face contorted in pain as he fought off another one. And then darkness, a cold, oppressive void that swallowed me whole. So we're gonna time skip a little bit. This is when she wakes up about a day or so later from that scene. I could feel the rough stone of the cliff biting into my back, the iron chains cold as they dug deep into my wrists, their mana draining the strength from my limbs. Each breath tasted of copper and dirt. Nearby, my legate was locked in a tiny cage, squeaking in fear. I could hear him scrabbling against the metal bars trying to get out, to reach me, but even his small, mousy body was not enough to escape the cage that they placed him in. I couldn't even summon the smallest flicker of fire. The sun dipped low, casting shadows over the desert to the north and the forest to the south. The air was thick with the scent of pine, dust, and blood. I must have been here for days, maybe weeks. Time had lost all meaning in this forsaken place. The bitbane had been relentless, their silver eyes gleaming with malice, as they watched me with the wild rage of those lost to this disease. I almost pitied them, lupins stripped of reason, feral and primal by a rabid disease. These were animals out for blood and rut, and they had slaughtered my kin in the mountains and the deserts. I was the last, chained to this cliff, a prize for their bloodlust. From my position, I could see the bitbane moving about, their long manes flowing, their eyes narrowed, watching. They had been thorough. The others, those I traveled with, lay scattered, broken bodies abandoned to the elements. I was left to wither under the scorching sun, their last amusement, as doors are allergic. My naked flesh, sensitive and scarred, burned with each passing moment. My hair, a wild tangle of red, whipped around my face, stinging my eyes. I thought of the bones and baubles braided into it, remnants of a life now distant, a life of freedom and innocence, now ruined. The wind carried the scent of wolfsbane, the bitbane's cannabis. Its bitter aroma, a cruel reminder of their dominion over this land they had claimed. As dusk settled, a figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. The air shifted. The mercenary compound, a crude assembly of rock and hide, was silent save the occasional rustle. They must be asleep. The figure moved with silent grace of a predator, his black hair and beard blending into the shadows, a shadow blade. His legati, a black, gleaming bat, flitted silently above him, its wings whispering in the dark. The dwarf's eyes, cold and black, surveyed the area with practiced indifference. "You're a sorry sight," he said, his voice low and devoid of emotion. "Siswin Lavastone, isn't it?" I nodded, my throat too dry to speak. Kevzik squeaked again, a desperate sound, his tiny form shivering in his cage. The dwarven man noticed him, and with a flick of his hand, the cage door snapped open. Kevzik darted out, scurrying to my side, climbing up to my shoulder, his small body warm against my neck as our bond reconnected. The man drew his sword, its obsidian blade glinting in the fading light. With a swift motion, he swung it, and the chains melted away, the magic restraints dissolving into nothing. "Can you walk?" he asked, his tone still flat. I pushed myself up, shakily, my legs trembling but holding. I managed to croak. "Good," he replied. "We need to move. Now." We turned towards the forest, the trees offering a semblance of cover, but before we could take more than a few steps, a bitbane burst from the undergrowth with a snarl, its silver eyes locked onto us. The dwarven man stepped in front of me, his sword raised. The rabid creature lunged, and the dwarven man moved like a shadow, his sword slicing through the air. The blade met flesh, and it fell, its blood darkening the ground. As he wiped the blade clean on the grass, he turned to me. "Keep moving, there will be more." We plunged into the forest, the darkness enveloping us, the trees whispered into the night. The ground was uneven, roots and rocks threatening to trip us at every step. He led the way, his movements precise and deliberate. He knew where he was headed. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Not here, not now," he replied. As we walked, I could feel the magic slowly returning to me, the fire within me flickering back to life. I flexed my fingers, the fire curling at my fingertips, hungry and waiting. He seemed to notice, his eyes flickering towards me. "You'll need that," he said. "They won't give up so easily." As if on cue, the howl of the bit bane echoed through the trees. It was a sound filled with rage and hunger. We quickened our pace, but they were relentless, their feral pack mentality driving them to pursue us with unyielding determination. We broke through the tree line, finding ourselves at the edge of a ravine. The moonlight illuminated the rocky expanse. He looked around, his eyes narrowing. "There's a cave nearby. We could take shelter there." The descent was steep, the rocks loose beneath our feet. Every step threatened to send us tumbling into the dark. He led me to an entrance, a crack in the rock, narrow and uninviting. "We won't fit," I murmured, my breath still ragged from the run. He said nothing. Instead, his arms wrapped around me, his cloak billowing as shadows curled around us. The sensation was instant, cold, cloying, pressing in from all sides. The world narrowed to nothing but the weight of him, the dark consuming us both. And then release. The air was damp, heavy with the scent of stone and thyme. A sliver of moonlight slipped through that crack. The space around us was tight, barely enough to move without brushing against the jagged walls. The air was silent. My breath came slow, steady, controlled. He did not move, his posture rigid in the tight space. A shadow passed over the sliver of moonlight. A snout pushed through the crack, sniffing, the breath of the beast hot against the stone. We tensed. My body remained still, muscles locked, waiting for him to burst through. The nose withdrew. A howl rose in the distance, long and searching. Another answered. "How did you know this was here?" I asked, the silence having dragged out long enough now. He looked at me, his eyes cold and unreadable. "I stayed here a few times during missions in the area." "Why did you help me?" The words felt strange in my mouth. I had stopped expecting kindness a long time ago. People did not risk themselves for others without reason, especially not for someone left to rot on a cliffside. "Because I need you," he said simply. "The Banes won't stop until we're both dead. Together, now we have a chance." I studied him, trying to read the emotions behind his words. There was nothing, though. Only a void, an emptiness that made my skin crawl. He was a shadow. "I do." His gaze did not waver as he answered the unasked question. "Your fire, my dark, they don't push against each other. They don't consume. Never had that before. That's not something I've ever heard of before." The words settled between us, something heavier than reason, something I did not know how to name. "Who are you?" I finally asked, my voice a whisper in the dark. He turned to me, his eyes black and unreadable. "Darklestone Aaron," he said, the name rolling off his tongue like a secret. "This is," he said, lifting a hand to scratch the small bat resting on his shoulder, its wings twitching at his touch. "Leapt. I was sent by our employers." "Sent?" I echoed, the word tasting bitter. "To rescue me?" He nodded, his expression unchanging. "Your caravan never arrived. An Ebenville feared the worst. I was sent to find survivors." Okay, for the third section. This section is after they've made it all the way back. It's a few weeks later. By the time we reached the gates of the dwarven city, Achia, the sky had begun its descent into dusk, the golden light casting long shadows over the stonework. The guards let us through without question. The weight of my family name carried meaning here. Inside, I was led to a private chamber, a space carved deep within the mountain walls where my family waited. It was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of burning oil and earth. The moment I did, I was met with the fierce embrace of my mother, her arms gripping me as though I might disappear again. My father stood nearby, his expression unreadable, while Eamon, my brother, approached with a measured look, his grip on my shoulder firm. "You're alive," my mother whispered, her voice catching. "We thought we'd lost you." I nodded, unable to find words. The questions came fast, overlapping one another. How had I survived? Where had I been? Were the others truly gone? Where was everyone? What happened? I answered what I could, though the memory still burned. Then my father spoke. His voice calm, but there was something behind it, something sharp. "Were you taken?" The words settled over the room like a weight. The warmth of my mother's embrace vanished as she stepped back, her hands trembling at her sides, waiting, uncertain. I did not answer right away. I swallowed, my throat dry, the fire in my veins turning to embers. Yes. The silence that followed was thick and final. My father's face hardened, his lips pressing into a thin line. My mother looked away, drying her tears. I knew, even before the words left his mouth, what he would say. "You're no daughter of mine." The walls seemed to press in, the weight of the mountain above us suffocating. My mother turned, walking away without another word. My father followed, and the others soon after. None met my eyes. None hesitated. Only Eamon remained. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. "I will take care of you, sister. I will find you a husband. One who doesn't care." "She's not unworthy," said Darkle, stepping out of the shadows. "Being taken does not make her less of a bride." Eamon's jaw tightened, his arms crossing over his chest. His own wolfhound, silent until now, let out a slow breath, watching Darkle with the same sharp scrutiny. "You speak as if she's still of value," Eamon said. "What can she offer you that another bride could not? Her mana is volatile, her presence draws attention. She's a playwright. But that is more of a burden than a blessing. What use is she to a man like you?" Darkle did not waver. He looked from Eamon to me, his dark eyes unreadable. "I have spent my life in shadows. There are few things in this world that feel familiar to me. She does." Eamon narrowed his eyes. "Explain." "You think fire is only destruction," Darkle said. "I have seen what it can do, how it bends to her will, how it does not consume unless she commands it. Shadow and flame should repel each other, but hers does not fear mine. That is not something I have ever known." His words settled in the space between us. Eamon's gaze flickered to me, his expression unreadable. "And your guild?" he asked, voice softer now, though no less firm. "Ebonville has no place for outsiders. A playwright in your ranks would only draw attention, put you at risk." Darkle tilted his head. Risk and power walk hand in hand. I would not ask her to change. She would not need to. She could be an asset to me, to Ebonville, but more than that, I don't believe she belongs to the life that you would give her. Thank you. Questions?
What did you learn about yourself and what did you learn about your writing process during this?
That I love to write and hate to edit. Honestly, the easiest part of the entire thing was the writing, just getting it out. I loved the process of just exploring the world that I created and the characters and all of that. But then the revision, no, not so much. I did not enjoy that.
You create such beautiful worlds. Can you talk about the process you go through in creating these worlds?
I don't have a process for creating the worlds because I've always known this world. I think I've mentioned it a couple times recently that about 15 years ago, give or take, I had a dream, and it was this world. And ever since then, I've only been writing this world. So every time I write something, I explore it a little bit more.
It's so detailed.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll go this way.
How did you decide to write short stories in this world rather than a novel?
Okay, so long story short, the piece I wanted to write was going to be a way bigger project than what was required for a thesis, like probably 4 times bigger. So instead, we decided to do a short story, kind of world building type thing, because while I knew my world, there was still a lot about it I did not know. And so I wrote 11 short stories to knock out what I needed to knock out. And then during the revision process, I decided that I only needed a select few of those to really stand out more, and then the rest I can build upon later. And then, what was the question? I forgot.
I was just saying, what made you choose
Oh.
the usual short stories?
Right.
rather than
So part of it was to use these short stories to build upon the novels and this world that I am writing. So Christian.
Okay. I feel that with genre, there are certain expectations and tropes that you're writing against, right? How, if the ideal occurs, everything that you're after, right? What do you hope will be one of your signatures for your literary career?
I don't know how to answer that. To be honest, I'm of the mindset that for anything I write, I'm not writing to publish. I'm not writing to make money. I'm literally writing because I have a compulsion to. I want to. And so getting these to be out there and among the greats, and off the top of my head, Anne McCaffrey, Margaret Weiss, Tolkien. I don't know what my signature would be compared to those, with the exception of something that we mentioned in my defense earlier, is I pull from my STEM background. There's a lot of biology, a lot of criminology, and a lot of science, I guess, just in general, in my works overall. And so when it comes to high fantasy, most of them don't have that. So I maybe that's the signature, is that I include science with the fantasy, and it is one.
Well, I kind of have my question as well. So I know, just from talking with you, that you have this I think, pretty great concept with your people and the world and how the powers manifest in things. And so, is that something that you started with, or did that grow and you think it's going to keep evolving?
For this world, I think I always knew that was one of the things that was part of the dream, was that this was how people, I don't know, in the dream it was about a specific elf, and like it just kind of all laid out before me how they got their powers, how they have these legate, how the world worked, and that they're on this Pangea-like continent. And a lot of the stuff that I didn't know, it wasn't about creating it, it was about my brain just pulling back the sheet and letting me see it. So a lot of it was already there. It was already created, so to speak. So some things might evolve because there are a few things that from the thesis I did learn that I didn't get to implement in the thesis. So I'm going to implement later, moving forward. And it might always be an ever-evolving thing. Oh gosh, Alexis.
Do you think that you will just, like, not just, but like, write in this world for the rest of the time, or do you think that you'll, at this point, you will end and then you'll create another world? That, yeah, what do you think the journey is like?
I'm uncertain, to be honest, because a lot of times I write based off of what I need to write in that moment. So if there comes a point where I find myself no longer writing in this world, maybe I've already written all the stories that I needed to for this world. But at this time, I have a lot planned out to write still.
What book from your bibliography had the biggest impact on your writing? And why?
That is a loaded question because there was a lot. I don't think I can narrow it down to one. That's like saying choose your favorite book, and I don't have a favorite book. But the best I can say is that the closest I can come would be something that is similar, and that would be Philip Pullman with the Golden Compass series. And then here recently, there's Chris Wooding with the Ember Blade series. Those are the two off the top of my head that I could say are similar enough, but at the same time, I've never pulled direct inspiration from any book. Things have just been building within me because I've been reading since I was 4 or 5, any and everything I could get my hands on. A lot of it actually, come to find out, looking back, some of it was nonfiction, and I did not know that. But a lot of it evolved even before I knew what these, like, before I even read the Golden Compass series, I already had the idea for my legate, and he has daemons, which are similar, but mine are different, but comparable, so. Any more questions? Okay. Dolby is free? Thank you.
Thank you all, and again, just a reminder, the elevator is working, so we can be upstairs tomorrow. I'll send an email as well. Thanks you all. Have a great night.